what's going on? This preacher. So, truckers, are they talking about their ego or are they talking in integrity? What happens a lot, especially on YouTube, you have a lot of truckers saying, oh, they getting $3 a mile. You know, they don't do no loads for under $250. And if you doing loads under $250, then you're the problem, taking cheap freight. They say all these things, but a lot of times they're talking about things that they really don't know. And they try to group other truckers inside that same category. For instance, I had a person who commented on one of my videos saying that I'm one of the major problems with the rates being low. And I'm like, well, how? The series I'm talking about is trucking with new authority, right? And a lot of times they commenting on things that they don't know nothing about. I don't talk about stuff that I don't know nothing about or I haven't experienced. Okay, because if you never had your authority before, then you can't talk about somebody who got the authority because you don't know nothing about it. And I try to do everything in integrity. That's why I show y'all rate cons. So when I'm saying I'm getting this per week, I show it, right? I have always did that. Even when I was with Warner, I showed my settlement statements where you can do the average if you want. You know what week it is of the year. It's 52 weeks in a year. And if I'm doing something in June, divide my total gross by the total weeks. And it gives you what my average is, right? People want to show a pay statement, because they had a good week, and they want you to believe that every single week that they getting that. That's why I say, nah, show me the gross. Show me the gross. That way I can divide it by what week we are in for the year, and I can get your real numbers. Or they making all this money, but they're not telling you how they're making this money. They doing over 4,000 miles in a week, 4,500 miles in a week to gross the amount that they grossing, right? But they running illegally. Everybody's not going to run illegally to make that kind of money. So you mean to tell me I got to run almost 4,500 miles just so I can make that kind of money? And the company you work for, you won't be able to do that because they're not going to be switching your times on your ELD to be able to make that. So that's not reasonable for somebody getting in thinking that this is what they're going to be able to do. Every time somebody comment on something that I done said, I always say the same thing. I can tell that you don't have your own authority. When you sign on with a company and you run it up under their authority, you can get better rates because their authority has already been aged. But everybody who didn't have their authority before knows when you get your new authority, you're not getting those rates. Because there's only 3, maybe 4 brokerage that would take you when you first get your authority. And they know that. Why in the world I'm going to give you $2.50, $2.60 plus a mile for a load when I know you can't go to nobody else? Why? You have no choice but to go through like C.H. Robinson and TQL because they're the ones who taking you when you first get your authority. And they know that. So you're not going to get top rates. So if somebody telling you when they got a new trucking authority that they doing this or they averaging this amount per mile, this many cents per mile, you're like, well, you the problem. You know, you taking cheap freight. Well, guess what? When you get your new trucking authority, that's what you have to do. You're going to have to take cheap freight until your authority age. That's why some people, they cook their authority. They would still be running up under somebody else's authority and letting their authority sit and age. So that way, by the time you hit month 3, you got about 5 other brokers, 6 other brokers that you can use. So the longer your authority ages, the more brokers you can use. So now you have more options. You go to Truck Stop and you go to their load board. When you click on the broker, they tell you the your authority age requirements right there, whether you can book with them or not. Folks don't be caring. They don't care that you've been using this brokerage on somebody else's authority for this, and now they're like, well, you brought on your own authority now. Watch anybody on YouTube when they talking about running up under their new authority. If everybody say the same exact thing, so why you think if you gonna get your own authority, what, you finna reinvent the wheel? You finna be the first one that can go with another broker that requires 1 year? You think that you gonna be able to do that? No, you're not. People talk about things that they do not know nothing about. Why would you want to listen and base you doing something that somebody else doing on lies or on egos? Oh, well, I get this. Well, prove it. I tell them all the time in the comments, prove it. Do a video. Bring your receipts. It's easy to say something. Everybody can just say things, but do they prove what they're doing? That's why right now, before I do something, I listen to different people who done got their new authority. I listen to what they have done. And never mind that 65% of people who get their new authority shut down within their first year of having their authority. So that's why I'm like, no, my business is built off of low rates. Starting off, I had to build my business off of low rates. Because that's all I'm going to be able to do for at least the first 9 months. If your overhead is high, that's on you. You didn't structure your business correctly. That's a you problem. That's not a me problem. That's a you problem. I had to do low rates for about 5.5, really 6 months before I would start able to get these loads, paying over $3 a mile. But starting off, yeah, $175, $180 a mile. But my business is structured off of my operating cost of cents per mile at $1.30. So long as I was getting loads paying more than $1.30, I was fine. My business can stay afloat. Plus, I paid off my truck. I spent a total of $55,000 to pay off my truck within 4 months. My business was making plenty of money because I structured my business correctly. Now, because you can't operate for less than $2 a mile, well, that's a you problem. That's not a me problem. You structure your business wrong. I can't help that because you don't know what you're doing. That's a you problem. But you want to come and make comments under my videos when I'm talking about new trucking authority, where I'm being transparent with everything of what you can expect. And if you look at my videos who trucking under new authority and the other people who's trucking under new authority, they say the same exact thing all the time. They all say the same thing. So if everybody's saying the same thing, shouldn't you listen to the people who's actually doing it instead of listening to these people inside the comments or people who get on here and just be testing lying? It's an ego thing. Well, I get all this. Or, well, that's you. There's millions of truckers. There's hundreds and hundreds of brokers out there. That's what they are. Some of the brokers that I have used before where I got great rates, well, I got to wait time, I get a year before I can use those brokers to get those better rates. But until then, this is what I had to do. But then I'm not going to wait a year. I got out there and got myself a contract. All my loads pay over $3 a mile. Now, all of them. And this since November. My authority got opened up May the 2nd. November the 9th was my first load with this contract I got, and all of them pay over $3 a mile. When you start off, you got to plan on not getting great rates. It is what it is. You're not going to get great rates. You're not. So instead of complaining about it and blaming other people for your problems, how about you structure your business right? How about you make better financial decisions in what you are doing? You getting out here with new authority, expect not to get good rates. It is what it is. You can sit there and complain all day. You can point fingers at everybody. You can point fingers at the foreigners that shaking cheap freight and everything. It's not going to change. It's not. You think they're going to change because you're complaining about it? You can sit there and complain about it, or you can do something about it. Okay? I don't talk about it. I be about it. It is what it is. You're not going to change it. So if you can't change it, well, find a way to operate in it, or find a way to beat it. You don't got to use a broker. Go out there and get you some direct lanes from shippers, and ask them like I did. I knew that I didn't want to be stuck at under $2 a mile for a long period of time, so I went out there and got myself a contract. I heard about 12 no's before I had one yes. It is what it is. But as I'm doing these here rates and trying to get the best rates, I'm working on trying to get myself a direct lane from a shipper, from a manufacturer, somebody. You are your own carrier. You do not have to go through a broker. These loads that I have now, it's not through a broker. And it's going to take me all the way up until May. So I'm still trying to work on another contract that I can get, or a direct lane that I can get, even after this particular season is over with. I will tell you that they want to utilize me even during the off season. And that's still going to be about 10 loads a month during the off season. So I'm like, okay, 10 loads a month, well, that's 2 weeks. So I'm going to have about 2 weeks worth of spot market freight. But by that time that my contract is over, my authority will be a year old. So I can sign on with other brokers to use that pay a lot better. And I tell everybody, listen, I stay in Florida. Everybody know how the rate is in Florida. Why you complain about I got to take a cheap rate? Well, that's all they have in Florida is cheap rates getting up out of Florida. It is what it is. But when you know that that's all they have is the cheap rates getting out of Florida, that's why you plan on these things. You're not getting no dollar, not even $1.40 out of Florida. It's not happening. It really is, it's not happening. So if you know that from the start that because I stay in Florida, I got to settle on $1 a mile, maybe $1.10, maybe $1.25. I didn't got $1.36 out of Florida as well. But when you know that, you plan for that. You budget for that. But you got these truckers with their ego. Oh, I don't do this. You lying. Every load you get don't be over $2 a mile. You ain't finna sit here and tell me that because the load board states all that particular stuff. So when they telling you this, a lot of them be lying. They do. A lot of them be lying. It's about their ego to try to build themselves up. Me, it is what it is because I know that God is going to bless me regardless of the situation. He's going to make sure that I am well compensated inside my business.
Then take the exit to US 98.
That's why I don't worry about what men say. I listen to the voice of the Lord and how the Lord directs me. In life, if you're going off of what people say, you can miss your blessing. Plain out and simple. You can miss your blessing because you're worried about what men say or what men think about what you are doing.
Turn right on US 98.
So when you're worried about what men say and what men want you to do, okay, now you can go ahead and you can lose a lot of things. I saw one video of this one truck. He bought a brand new Peterbilt, real nice.
Turn right on
Real
US
nice.
98 West.
Brand spanking new. He put another $70-something thousand into tricking it out. It looked real nice. He did brand new interior to match. The new seats to match his interior. He did all this particular stuff, right? Spent over $75,000 tricking it out when he got the brand new P that he got. 1 year later, he hasn't been able to pay his mortgage payment for over
Continue
2
on Southern
months.
Boulevard.
2 months behind in his mortgage payment. And he's talking about these cheap rates gonna put him out of business. Really? Is the cheap rates gonna put him out of business, or his bad money management that's gonna put him out of business? Because if you buy a brand new P, in less than a year, you put another $70-something thousand painting it, tricking it out. If you're doing that, why did you spend that extra money that you have to trick it out? Why didn't you keep that so if the rates go down, you still got money to keep you afloat, to keep you up? You behind inside your truck payments and in your mortgage. I'm like, really? In 1 year? All this happened to him in 1 year. So whose fault is that? Is it the people taking cheap rates fault? Or is it the person who's spending unnecessary money on their truck to make their truck look good so they can get a lot of other truckers be like, man, you got a bad truck. Man, you got a good looking truck. That is not a wise business decision. You got a lot of people trying to start a trucking business but don't have a business mindset. You don't spend your money on things like that in the trucking business because you never know what's going to happen. Every load is not going to pay you over $2 a mile. It depends on the area, how many trucks is in the area. I don't care what you say. Well, I'm just going to sit. Well, you go ahead and sit. What business does that? What business closes on a day because they don't make enough money on that day, so they just going to close? No, in business, you have slow days in business where you know you're not going to make that much money. But you know what? Towards the end of the week, you know you're going to make enough money to cover the cost of the days that you didn't have good days. It's going to even out. You don't run a business based off of a day-to-day. You run a business based off of how much you made for the month or how much you made for the week. And you budget yourself. And you do a declining budget. It's so many things that you can do in business that can help you out. That don't make no sense. Why in the world do I just want to deadhead out of Florida because I can't get a rate more than $1.30 a mile because I'm only going to get $500 to $600 getting me out? Well, guess what? Right now, my fuel per week is about $1,500. If I get 2 loads going back up to pick up my other loads that pay me 3 miles, I may get like $1,100. But if my fuel is $1,500, that means I just got to put in another $400 to cover my cost of fuel per week. But if I'm just deadheading because I don't want to do a load because it's not going to pay me what I want it to pay me, $2 a mile, well, guess what? That whole $1,500 is coming out of my pocket off my other loads. And I'd rather put $400 out of my pocket to cover my cost of fuel than paying the whole $1,500. Again, it's a business decision. It's not an ego decision, it's a business decision. You can't run your business off of ego. Your ego is not going to pay the bills. It's going to make you feel good, but you're going to wind up running out of business. So many people that shut down their authority in less than a year of having their authority. They didn't plan accordingly. You have to plan accordingly. Stop listening to other people talking about their ego and what they're doing and listen to people who doing things in reality. Like I said, have a reality business plan when you getting out here. Listen to people who's telling you. If people is telling you, like, listen, and you can Google this stuff. At that, Google, what is the average rate per mile for drive-in? What is the average rate per mile for step deck, for reefer, for whatever you're doing? Google is going to tell you what's the average rate and go back to the years. Don't look at the COVID years when everybody was paying over $3 a mile and you basing your business off of numbers that was inflated because of what was going on in the economy at that time. Go back before then and see what the average rate is. You saying low rates. Are they low rates or are they the same rates? And you was basing stuff off of when the country was going through things. That's what I mean by you have to know these in particular stuff when you're getting out here making these business decisions. You can Google what was the average rate per mile for whatever you carrying. Go back before 2020 and see what was the average, all this stuff. So are the rates low or are the rates back to where they was going before? You saying rates are low, that's because fuel is a lot higher. Expenses is a lot higher, but the rates have not changed from what they always have been. It's a difference when you paying $2 and something per gallon for diesel. Yeah, it is a difference. But you still have to know this stuff. I told y'all, you have to do a market analysis. And when you're doing a market analysis into where you want to go in a particular market, that also means you got to look at the fuel around in that route that you plan on going. So you know how much you can be using in fuel. Run a business and stop pointing fingers at folks because you don't know how to run a business. I'm trying to say it. Just because you know how to drive a truck don't mean you know how to run a trucking business. And if you know how to run any business, it's still the same. You just gonna transfer what you know from a business that you've been running into trucking. Numbers do not lie. People lie, but numbers don't lie. That's why I showed y'all my numbers. I showed y'all my numbers a couple times in some of my videos. If y'all want, I can show y'all my numbers again. I can show y'all my numbers for these direct shippers that I got. To show y'all it's way over $3 a mile. It is what it is. But I do that so you know how it is out here. I do that and I talk about it so you know when you have your own, you are your own carrier, you could go out and get your own contracts. You don't have to use a broker. You can get your own direct lanes from the shippers and stuff. You can do that. You don't need a broker for all that particular stuff. I'm saying, are y'all listening to trucker egos or are y'all listening to truckers with integrity? Because if you listen to the egos, you always gonna fail. You will always fail. Listen to people who actually showing y'all and telling y'all the truth. The problem is people don't want to know the truth. That's the problem. You cannot compare yourself that when you sign on to somebody who authority is like 10 years old, 15 years old, 8 years old, and compare that to somebody who just got their authority. The rates does not match those. It doesn't. They know, they see how long your authority been up there. Oh, he's less than a year. Oh, we can charge this. No, I can't go more on this rate. They're gonna go on the rate $50, maybe $100, because they know you don't have no other choices. I done had people who only wanted to go up $50, and I told them, nah, never mind. That's okay. But thank you for your time. I hang up with them. Another 20 minutes then went by. They calling me back and say, yeah, they could do it for my rate. Yeah, because they thought I was going to take the bait. That's why. And I didn't take the bait. So that'd be their other problem. They gonna do things like that because they want you to take that bait. And you're gonna feel pressure when you can't find no other loads. That's what I mean. Don't listen to these truckers with their egos. Listen to the truckers with integrity. Listen, I listen to them because it's good entertainment. I'm not gonna follow none of their advice though. Yeah, I had to hit the horn on this dude in this Cherokee. Again, man, listen. This video is going too long, but it just irks me when people is sitting here just lying on an ego trip, like all they loads that they get is $3 a mile, $2 or something a mile, and each, no matter what you carry, it pays different. Step deck pays differently than flatbed. Flatbed pays differently than reefer. Reefer pays differently than drive-in. So it all depends on what you hauling as well. If somebody's doing reefer, which pays more than drive-in, and they telling you, and you on drive-in, oh, that's a cheap rate. Oh, all my loads be like this. Well, yeah, you in a reefer. Reefer gonna pay more. You can't compare. You compare apples to oranges. It does not work. That's what I mean by, people don't ask questions. They don't ask questions and they don't read. And because you don't ask questions and you don't read, okay, you could fail inside this business. I said could. I said could. You could fail in this business. So the trick is not to fail. Get as much information, right information as possible. That's why I listen to other truckers. That's why I talk to other truckers who've been doing this for a while. Those are the reasons why. Because more information can help me make my decision whether I want to do this or don't do this. Okay? So, again, are you listening to truckers' egos, or are you listening to truckers that have integrity, that's trying to be transparent and tell you the truth of what's going on out here? Don't base your decision off of lies. Don't base your decision off of egos. Don't do that, because yeah, you're going to fail. If you don't know what loads are going for on the load board, the actual load board, before you get out here and get your own authority, you going off of what you was getting up under somebody else's authority, okay, yeah, you're going to be in a rude awakening. I done seen 3 people who done got their authority. Yeah, I done got my authority, I done got this, and now they complaining on the rates that they're getting for the loads. You didn't do your research. People always want to say, oh, well, you the problem taking these loads for cheap freight. You got to run. They know you ain't going nowhere else. Where you going to go? You're not going to make a broker take you when you have new authority. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And just because you took one cheap load don't mean your next load got to be cheap. That's not what that means. All right? So y'all stay blessed. Stay vigilant. Y'all have a great day.